So in step one, okay, step one, let's prove the statement is actually true for a specific value. Okay, so let's prove true for n is equal to 1. Okay. Well, what does it mean for, look at the left hand side here, okay, the left hand side here of this particular statement is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus and so on up to n. So when n is equal to 1, we're talking about the first value in this particular sequence. Okay, when n is 1, we're actually talking about it's just 1. Okay, if n was 2, we'd be talking about 1 plus 2. If n was 3, we'd be talking about 1 plus 2 plus 3. Okay, so it's actually the sum of all values up to 1, which is actually just 1. So the left hand side of this statement, okay, of the statement that we want to try to prove true, okay, we're going to prove true for n is equal to 1. So actually the left hand side gives us 1, which we must show is equal to n over 2 times n plus 1. Okay, so n is equal to 1, so that's 1 over 2 times 1 plus 1, okay, which is the same as 1 over 2 times 2, which is the same as 1. Okay, so actually the right hand side of this particular expression, yeah, okay, when we put 1 into the right hand side here, okay, what we actually get is 1, which is the same as the left hand side. So we now know that this actual statement is true for n is equal to 1. Maybe that was a little bit complicated. Maybe what we should do is do it separately. Okay, let's say separately. Okay, let's just do it separately. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the left hand side. Okay, the left hand side is, well, when n is equal to 1, this is the sum of all values up to n. When n is equal to 1, it's the sum of all values up to 1, which is just equal to 1. Okay, now the right hand side, okay, is, okay, n over 2, it's n over 2 times n plus 1. Okay, when n is equal to 1, that becomes 1 over 2 times 1 plus 1, which is equal to, well, that's a half times 2, which is equal to 1. So what we actually have here in this situation is clearly the left hand side is equal to the right hand side, so we know it's true, so hence it's true. So therefore it's true for n is equal to 1. That's our first step. Okay, now let's assume step 2. Okay, step 2 in this particular process, okay, let's go back here, is that we assume the statement is true for all values up to a general value k. Okay, so we're going to assume true. So we're going to assume true for n is equal to k. All the summation of all the values up to k. In other words, what are we actually assuming? So what are we assuming? Okay, well, what we're actually assuming is this: is that 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus k, all the values up to k must be equal to this thing here where we've gone up to k. So it's equal to k over 2 times k plus 1. Okay, so we're assuming this to be true here. Okay, doesn't make it true, we're just assuming it to be true. And then step 3, so that's step 2 done. Step 3 is we need to prove true for n is equal to k plus 1. Okay, so what do we need to show? Well, we need to show, okay, that, what do we need to show now? For n is equal to k plus 1, we need to show that 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus all the way through to plus k plus 1, the next term, has to be equal to, okay, well, now it's k plus 1, okay, over here, so it has to be equal to k plus 1 over 2 times k plus 1 plus 1, right? We need to show that actually this is true. So let's do it. Okay, so let's try that. So what we're going to do now is this: is we're going to go back. Okay, we're going to go back to our assumption. Okay, our assumption here, we know we've assumed true. We've assumed that 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way through to k is equal to k over 2 times k plus 1. We want to prove this thing here true. Okay, so let's add k plus 1 onto both sides. Okay, so we've assumed this. Okay, so therefore we must have 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus all the way through to k plus k plus 1, okay, must be equal to this thing here, which is k over 2 times k plus 1 plus what we've added on over here. We've added k plus 1 on over here, so we need to add it on over here. Okay, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, there's nothing to do on the left hand side here, because the left hand side of this particular thing here, okay, the left hand side here, okay,